well. Waiting for him to jump on the call. But yeah, we won on yesterday. I wasn't a little bit under the weather. Feeling a little bit better today. Carl, I know you you're dealing with some stuff as well too. You texted me before the show. So just kind of the
Yeah,
walking wounded. It seems like.
I literally zipped up to the sports bar here after a doctor's visit. I've got a partially torn ACL and MCL. Uh, I ran for a
Yikes.
beer in between periods, and I guess must have got injured.
Yeah, see, it's always a hazard. You got that's why whenever I'm having a big day and I'm watching a bunch of games, I just keep everything kind of close because you're running, around room to room. Something can happen. So,
Yeah.
yeah, hope you feel better soon with that, man. That's a
All
tough
good.
one.
All
So we got our final big Thursday card of the regular season. We've got 12 games. Some of them have big meanings. Some of them teams just playing for exercise. We'll start at the top of the card with one team needing a couple of extra points and one team that's playing like the best team in hockey. You got Detroit traveling to the Steel City of taking on the Pittsburgh Penguins. Detroit has won 6 games in a row. They've won 8 of the last 9, and here they are again as giant underdogs against a Penguins team that really just only needs a point. I think Pittsburgh clinches the division, or they clinch a playoff spot with just 1 point in this game in any fashion. So I mean, they pretty much need to just win this game and be done with it. But Detroit already beat Pittsburgh 4-1. They've been dominating everybody as of late. You got guys coming up from Grand Rapids playing hard. Some of the older guys are sitting these last couple games out. Like I said, Detroit, they're just a team. They don't feel like they should be losing right now. They're rolling with this momentum, and we're getting a huge plus price with them. I like Detroit once again in this spot. I've cashed with them multiple times, and I don't see any reason to get off of the horse, especially the way they dominated Pittsburgh at home the other night. What do you think, Carm?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. We talked about this on the last show, and and you said I literally said there was no way I was laying $1.90 with the Penguins on the road. Just they just haven't been dominating teams, but also just because of the way Detroit had been playing.
Right.
And you suggested that you were going to lean on Detroit and take Detroit there, and it worked out great. Listen, they've got guys coming up from the AAA team or what have you.
Yeah,
But
Grand
they,
Rapids too.
they're enjoying this spoiler role. They really are. And I look at tonight's game, minus 291 in the Pens. You've got to be nuts to lay that type of a number. I wouldn't even lay the puck line to reduce the juice. If you're going to take anything, it's either a pass or you take a shot with a Wings team who right now they're just playing great. You wouldn't think Pittsburgh will lose back-to-back games against Detroit, especially returning home. But hey, this is the NHL. This happens, and you have to remember this line is probably about 80 cents higher than it normally would be
Yep.
during the regular season.
Yeah,
They're
definitely.
taking into consideration what this game is to Pittsburgh and that it means nothing to Detroit. But when they hit the ice, Detroit doesn't know it's a meaningless game. They're out there, they're playing for next year's contracts. So who knows? Yeah, absolutely.
And if you want to be really ballsy, and I actually did this with Detroit against San Jose, you could take them in regulation at plus 430. I cashed them plus 400 in regulation against San Jose. Got that 3-2 win. So that's the thing. I think most of these wins for Detroit, I think only a couple of them have been in overtime. Most of them have been in regulation. So I mean, if you're looking for value, that's about as good as it'll get. The rest of the way here on the board, in my opinion. But there's a couple other good spots here. One game that's interesting we were talking about before we started taping. Number 3, number 4 on the rotation board. You got the Ottawa Senators traveling against their division rival, the Buffalo Sabres. Buffalo a minus 200 favorite. We're wondering why is Buffalo minus 200 when they've lost 21 of the last 24 games? Well, the Ottawa Senators are starting a young goalie straight out of college named Joey Decord, which is a really cool story because Decord is the first draft pick and will be the first NHL player to come from Arizona State University. Arizona State was a club team just 3 years ago. They made their move to Division One. Actually made it into the NCAA tournament last week. Got knocked out in the first round. So Decord goes from starting for that team now to starting in the NHL. So a cool story. I don't know if he's going to turn into the next Andrew Hammond for Ottawa. But the thing with goalies getting their debut and getting these spot starts, I mentioned it with the other day with Pasquale for Tampa Bay. Guys don't really have a book on them. don't really know how to approach or attack them. So sometimes these goalies really step up early, and actually can steal a game or two. Maybe that's a spot here against the Buffalo team that just seems to be mailing it in. What do you think,
Yeah,
Tom?
yeah. Listen, 21 and 12, 236 goals against average for ASU. Listen, it's the Sabres. I understand you're catching Ottawa on the tail end of a back-to-back. They played the Rangers last night or whatever. But I'm a Sabres fan, and as hard as it is to say that, and Prez will usually give me a hard time on that, but they've just looked absolutely terrible. There's no way you can lay a number like this, and this has, the Sabres being minus 200 tonight is strictly because it's back-to-back for Ottawa, and they're starting the cord in net tonight. I would never lay that number. It's like you said, sometimes a team rallies around a rookie goalie, making his first start. They played a little better defensively. It's one of those things. I can't lay the number with this Buffalo team. You just never know. I'll actually lean to Ottawa here at plus 180. I know everything is telling you to go the other way, but I actually think that they could actually put in defensively a good effort for their rookie goalie tonight.
Yeah, I'm not going to touch this game betting wise, but I'll be rooting for Ottawa. It would be cool to see the Cord get a win. I had family out in Arizona, so Arizona State is a program I've always watched for other sports and followed their high. And this is a true story about 13, 14 years ago. I was in high school and wrote a paper during the NHL lockout about how college hockey was going to boom in the U.S. And the three programs I mentioned that were club programs at the time: Penn State, Arizona State, and the University of Illinois. The paper got a C. And my teacher, she was actually a hockey fan. She's like, yeah, this probably won't ever happen, yada, yada. And it was poorly written. And now here I am today. Not only do I write partially for a living, but two of those schools have moved to D1 status, with Illinois talking about moving in the next couple of years. So pretty much my English teacher in sophomore year was wrong.
Well done, sir. You should get that paper regraded, I think.
I have it on another computer back home. I should actually just revise it and reprint it and just mail it to her, But yeah.
Have another look.
Yeah, right. Next game on the board, we got Montreal. This is an important game for both teams for different reasons. Montreal traveling to the American capital. Washington taking on the Capitals. Washington a minus $1.30 favorite. The total 6, slightly shaded to the under. This is a funny game because obviously Montreal needs all the points they can get, but Washington, they can wrap up the Metropolitan Division, not have to worry about this back and forth with the Islanders of Pittsburgh. They'll take care of home ice for the next 2 rounds with this win. I think they only actually need a point here. Yeah, they get 1 point, and the Islanders lose in regulation. Or if the Islanders just lose in regulation, they're in, they win the Metro. So, this is the time we always talk about scoreboard watching. I think that's going to be a really big thing tonight, tomorrow, and Saturday. Maybe not Saturday if everything happens on the board tonight. But I really don't know what to expect here. Washington's going to play at their A level because they can wrap up the division at home tonight, or are we just going to still get another strong effort from Montreal? They played really good against Tampa Bay the other night, although granted that was against Tampa's third-string goalie, but Pasquale, once again, he looked sharp in that first period, actually. Tampa isn't laying down for anybody, so that was a good win for Montreal. They've won 3 of the last 4. Washington trying to get some momentum rolling on their own. They had a 4-game win streak going until they played Florida. And like I mentioned, Florida's just always been a tough matchup for Washington, so it's a really tough game for me. I'm staying out of it completely. What are your thoughts?
It's tough. In a way, and if Andrew was here, I'd be telling him you kind of feel bad for Montreal, but if they had played better early on, they wouldn't be in the position they're in now. It's just tough because they're up against it. When you look at the teams ahead of them, and you look at Columbus, and Columbus closes with the Rangers and Ottawa, and you look at Carolina, and Carolina is closing with the Devils and the Flyers. Those are 2 games for each team that are wins. They should win. I can't see them losing unless they could lay complete eggs, which leaves Montreal on the outside looking in, regardless of what happens tonight. It's just the Canadiens are playing well. Yes, they beat a Jets team. They played perfect defensively, beat the Jets 3-1. But then you look a little further. Sometimes you look at who you're playing, and I understand you can only beat who they put in front of you. The Jets are not playing very good hockey right now. We'll talk about them a little later on, but they look like they're hobbling into the playoffs. They beat Tampa. It's kind of like what you said. We can always make excuses. A rookie goalie in net didn't really mean a lot to Tampa, but you can only play who they put in front of you. Tonight they play Washington, who have something to play for. It's a little different. I actually will lay. I'm seeing 133 on Washington. I actually will take Washington tonight to literally put Montreal out of their misery. Because if they go into Saturday with any kind of a chance, you know that the Leaf fans are going to be licking their chops on Saturday with a chance to beat the Canadiens.
Yeah, and that's something that I pointed out too. You looked at that happened last night. You had the Hawks picking up that shootout win against the Blues. These teams that are within the division, or have these rivalries, they're going to be fired up to try, like I said, and play spoiler even more so than just like a Detroit team playing against Pittsburgh. If they have the chance to do it, so definitely could possibly see that being a big game at the end of the that
Yeah, you look
game.
like four or five games ago, the Habs lost in overtime to Carolina 2-1. It's one of those games where if they came out on the winning end of that 2-1 game, they wouldn't be in this spot. It would be Carolina on the outside looking in right now, right? It's literally it's a 2-point flip. It's what happens. So.
Yeah, their last two losses, 2-1 against Carolina and a 6-2 blowout against Columbus. I mean, you got to take care of your own business. You can't rely on those other teams to keep pushing you along for so long.
Right.
So definitely, yeah. Next game on the board, we got Tampa Bay and Toronto, which you know what that means. That means there's a total of 7, slightly juiced to the under. Tampa Bay short favorite, which makes sense because Tampa Bay just continues to win hockey games against whoever they play, meaningless or meaningful as they might be. They did lose against Montreal. They have actually flip-flopped wins in the last 6 games, but like I said, I'm not betting against Tampa Bay. Not now. Maybe in the playoffs if they get in a spot, but I don't even see them being in a spot this postseason to bet against, to be honest, really. Toronto, however, we've been talking about them. They only have 3 wins in their last 9 games. Got their playoff position finally wrapped up. They will be on the road for game 1 and 2 against Boston, but like I said, you don't want to be backing into the playoffs, or in some team's case, on the ground rolling into the playoffs. So, I would like to think that Toronto, even though no Nazem Kadri, he's downgraded to doubtful. Jake Gardner might be back on that blue line. He's dealing with a back issue. But the only way I would look here would be Tampa Bay at a short price. Like I said, I can't back Toronto, even at home, even in a spot where they don't play well against a good playoff team. I just don't see where if that's going to happen. They've also lost 4 of the last 5 against the Lightning at home. So, Carmine, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's listen, the Lightning are the best team in the league. Their last 2 games to close out the season are against the Leafs, against the Bruins. They're not going to leave anything on the table for these. These are literally games where they're sending a message prior to the playoff starting. So I expect Tampa literally to win both games. I think this is where they show, hey guys, we're ready for you. You look at the starting goalies tonight. Neither team is resting players. Vasilevsky and Anderson in net are confirmed starters for both sides. Yeah, same here for me. It's Tampa Bay. I'm going to keep this short just because it's as far as the standings go, it means nothing to either team. But as far as the playoffs go, it's sending a message to the Leafs. Hey, if you get by the Bruins, we'll be waiting for you, more or less. So
Right.
It's what I expect. For me, it's Tampa Bay at a short price.
Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. All right, guys, you are watching PuckTime. I'm Alex B. Smith. He's Carmine Bianco. Carm, you got a 5% play up at Wagertalk.com tonight. Is that correct?
Yeah, with as we're talking about, there's probably about 4 or 5 spots today and possibly on Saturday which may mean something. Saturday could be absolutely foregone conclusion if everything that should happen tonight happens tonight. But so far this year it's been pretty good. It's a puck line play, 4-0 so far this year with puck line plays. So we'll look to keep it going tonight.
Nice. You can get his plays, all of his plays over at wagertalk.com. You can get mine at sportsmemo.com. I just have a 3% side play tonight. Like I said, there's some spots that are bigger than others, and usually that last day of the NHL, that Saturday, I've actually done really well on that last day over the last couple of years. Like I said, some things, once they pan out, you can kind of read between the lines of certain things, and it's almost like preseason we always talk about, betting preseason. You find out a lot of different information. The end of the season, especially with teams that are out of it, coaches just kind of say, hey, we're going to be doing this, bringing up some guys. Like I said, we see these college call-ups coming up over the last week or so. So definitely a good time to get on board. You can get on board with all of our plays, either at Wagertalk or Sports Memo. We have the promo code PuckTime. Give you 7 days of any hockey handicappers access for just $35. We've also got the NHL playoff packages up now for just $129. So definitely get on board with all of that at Wagertalk and Sports Memo. Let's get back to the board.
Sorry about that. Yeah, no, listen, I agree with you. When you've done it long enough, I've done it long enough. That, when you look at the lines that a book are putting out, you know where they should be. And if they're not where they should be, there's something is up. You know what I mean?
Right.
Kind of like what we talked about, like the Sabres in Ottawa tonight. But, like a couple nights ago when we talked about Minnesota and Winnipeg, it's probably a spot where the line should have been a little closer to a pick 'em, but Minnesota was like minus 130. Yeah. I took Minnesota in that game. It's for a reason. The line made sense from where I thought it probably should be, but sometimes you look at these numbers and like, no, this doesn't make sense. And there's a reason for it. Books usually don't get it wrong. I'm not saying they're perfect, but from your end, when you're looking at a number, you know where it probably should be, and when it's not, it makes you dig into it just a little further.
Well, and that's the thing. You have overcorrection. Like for example, Detroit-Pittsburgh, in my mind, is a clear overcorrection because it's a book saying, all right, well, Pittsburgh's a better team. They need to wrap up a playoff spot against a Detroit team that's completely out of it. And, like I said, that line, I'm baffled that line is that high. And I'm going to be playing that Detroit game. I haven't put it on the card yet, but as soon as we log off, I will be betting that game. It just doesn't make sense. But the books are paying more attention to the Final Four, baseball, everything else. And so we've seen these wide lines that where if they were really just kind of sitting down and putting a little more effort into it, we would see, the true numbers kind of balance out. And we'll see that, next week. Obviously, when the playoffs start, and we've already got series prices up now, too. We'll talk about that. I don't know what the schedule is for our playoff preview shows, but I'm pretty sure it'll be Monday or Tuesday. We're going to have some form of Stanley Cup preview show leading into Wednesday, April 10th, which, of course, is the first day of the playoffs. So, exciting times. Definitely keep checking on Wagertalk TV for that. With that schedule and stuff, we'll have that. And I'll have it posted on Twitter and stuff as well, too. So. All right, we'll get back to this giant card here. We're only like a half of the way into it. We got New York traveling down to the Sunshine State, taking on the Florida Panthers. Islanders minus, not $1.10, minus $1.15 favorite. We got a total of 5.5. We're seeing a lot of those more and more. 5.5 shaded to the over here. This is an interesting game. I really thought that Roberto Luongo was going to start this game tonight. We're talking about him possibly wrapping up his career. What better way to have done that at home against the team that drafted him, the New York Islanders? But it's Sam Montembeault that's in net. Luongo will wrap up the season with the finale against New Jersey on Saturday. But Montembeault's been playing really well. This Florida team, kind of almost in the vein of Detroit, just playing some decent hockey, trying to wrap up the season on a high note. They got a lot of young guys that are trying to play it to, try and be a part of this franchise down the road. And the Islanders already have their playoff spot pretty much wrapped up. It seems like they're not going to be able to catch Washington for that division spot, so they can just kind of try to get ready and try and keep pace to keep that second spot in the division. So it's still a somewhat meaningful game for them. But I think Florida might be the side to look at here at home.
Yeah, it's I was kind of surprised about the whole Luongo thing as well too. Obviously, he's going to get the start in the last game of the season. It's one of those ones where the Isles probably should be favored. I think if Florida wasn't playing as well as they have the last little while, the Isles might be a slightly bigger favorite. 5.5 seems right because the Isles are probably the best defensive team in the NHL this season as opposed to where they were last year. A lot of low numbers on their score lines. But yeah, and they've had a couple days off. Last they played on April 1st against the Leafs. They lost 2-1 at home. In the old heckling Tavares, and then he gets the game winner against them. But it's what happens. I'm going to lean to the Islanders here. I think you're getting a small number. It's just one of those games where I think their intensity level is just a little higher. I think even though they're not going to catch Washington for top spot in the Metro, I think home ice in the first round of the playoffs over the Pens is a big thing here. So and this puts them obviously one step closer to clinching that. So I'll take the Islanders lane 110.
Yeah, and this is a good test for the Isles before they get into the playoffs too, because this Florida team's actually rolling offensively. They scored 3 or more goals in 6 of the last 7 games. So yes, like I said, Islanders obviously defense is going to be their mantra down the stretch. So this is probably a good team to try and slow down. You look at teams, basically try to get some, practice in these last couple of games once they've got everything locked up. So maybe that's the way the Islanders approach this one tonight. Big game here in Carolina. They're hosting the New Jersey Devils. They are a gigantic minus 290 favorite. Total at 6 at a pick 'em price virtually. I like Carolina in the spot at home, a must-win game against a New Jersey team that has been worth fading, but I'm not laying 290. Even if you look at the regulation line here, we're seeing Carolina minus 180, 185. So it's a clear pass for me. I'll be watching it, but I won't be betting it. Carm, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's a sort of the same thing along the lines of like what the Preds have up, and we'll talk about that a little later on. But yeah, it's they control their own fate. I was actually at the game. I was like a late invite at the game in Toronto, so I got down there just in time for the first period, and Carolina just outplayed them. They're playing really well. Devils are pretty much packed it up as well too. Like you're looking at the Devils now, 70 points. They're literally 6 points out of that bottom spot, but the Sens have clinched that bottom spot in the league. And the Sens actually don't even have their own first-round draft pick. I believe it belongs to Colorado. So
yep, that's right.
That's amazing in itself. But yeah, no, I think they did what they had to do in Toronto. Completely outplayed them. Their back check was just unbelievable. I just watching this team. The Leafs couldn't get anything going. For me, it's Carolina regulation time puck line.
Okay, all right, and yeah, this is like I said, it's just one of those spots here with New Jersey. I mean, this is a team that really has disappointed me. I thought New Jersey was actually going to be a team to make some noise in the Metro this year, and they just completely tanked it. But the injury bug bit them hard all season long. But Carolina, like I said, must-win spot here, and they've played so well at home. If I had to play it, I would be leaning toward that side as well. So we got a game here right down the street from me. They're going to probably be giving away a whole bunch of stuff tonight, doing the whole jersey off their back ceremony. The Minnesota Wild wrapping up their disappointing season. They are going to be golfing next week, hosting the Boston Bruins. They are a minus $1.20 favorite for some reason. The over/under is 5.5 at even. Boston, played really well the other night against Columbus. Got that big win. I don't know how motivated they're going to be. They did get in very quickly after that Columbus game. I think they flew out right away, and they've been in town for a day or so, settled in. So maybe that means something. This Wild team, I would expect them to kind of fall off here. Now that they're officially eliminated, that bit of pressure is off their backs, but I don't think it's going to help them. I think it's probably just going to hurt them. I think Boston comes in, scores early. I might play Boston, Minnesota first period over, but I think the Bruins should probably take care of business here as a pick 'em dog here.
Yeah, I had passed on this game when I went through the card. I had Minnesota against Winnipeg, and you look at sort of the number, and you're kind of surprised that Minnesota is favored. And again, it goes to what I said a little earlier. Sometimes the books get it. They usually get it right, I think. Anyways, it's a game where I don't think Boston is, like we talked about, very motivated.
Yeah.
I think the game, although it means nothing, the game on Saturday is probably the better game to watch. I'll actually watch that Boston Tampa Bay game because I want to see if either team is going to send a message. They're two very physical teams. It's a game worth watching. This one, I can't bet this one. If I had to take something, if you held a gun to my head, I'd actually take Minnesota here just because they did what they had to do last time out. A couple games back, before they lost 4-0 to Arizona, they went into Vegas and beat the Golden Knights 3-2. You know what I mean? The Golden Knights have been playing some pretty decent hockey as well too, and especially they're a tough team to beat at home, and the Wild went in there and beat them. So it's a meaningless game, but if I had to take a side, it would be Minnesota tonight.
Yeah, well, I mean, a broken watch is right twice a day too. So that Minnesota win with Vegas, like, I don't read much into it. We've seen Vegas blow a couple of games at home as of late. Two things of note. Well, one thing of note with two people for Boston: Patrice Bergeron is questionable with a foot injury. Chris Wagner is out with a lower body injury in that game. So two things to definitely look at with as far as the Bruins are concerned. Another game here with some playoff implications: St. Louis. Trying to possibly still get that division spot. I mean, it's an absolute logjam between first and third in the Central. They are minus 200 favorites hosting the Philadelphia Flyers tonight. We got a total of 6. A lot of totals at 6 at pick and price here. That's the standard number now, it seems like. But it's hard to. I did take a shot and go over with the Flyers against the Stars the other night. That number just stuck out to me at 5.5, and it was able to cash pretty easily. I don't know about that here with St. Louis, especially if you got had not confirmed, but Jordan Bennington mostly going to play 22-5-1. He's got to be in consideration for the Vezina Trophy, if not certainly the Calder Trophy for Rookie of the Year. The way he has played, well, with 1.85 goals against, he's been really sharp. But you got Brian Elliott going against his old team too. You wonder if there's going to be some motivation there. Even though he's been with other teams since St. Louis, but I just still the way that he got kind of dumped out of St. Louis seemed pretty sketchy to me a few years ago. So maybe he gets geared up here, which would be his last start of the year, because Carter Hart's going to be starting the finale on Saturday. So what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, it's another one of those. You look at that division, the Central Division, with the Jets, the Blues, and the Preds. It's a logjam. And
Yeah.
it's hard to believe that, a team like Winnipeg, who played so well and at such a high level throughout the year, there's a very good chance that they're actually going to start the first round of the playoffs on the road, even though they have the lead now. Like, the Jets have 96 points. They're away to Colorado. They're away to the Coyotes. Now, may be a meaningless game for the Coyotes by the time Saturday rolls around, but the Jets aren't playing well now. You got the Preds at 96. And they close with Vancouver and your Blackhawks,
Yeah.
both at home in Nashville. And you have the Blues 95 closing at home with the Flyers in Vancouver. Both games they should win. So if the Jets drop one of those two games and both teams win out like they should, the Jets start on the road in the first round of the playoffs. It's kind of hard to believe, but it's something that could happen. For me tonight, it's the Blues. Blues. Regulation time, and I've got a parlay that I'll put out later for the guys, because I know the guys keep asking for a parlay,
Right,
and the
yeah.
Blues will be on it, but it'll be a puck line play on the Blues tonight. But
And here's the interesting.
go ahead.
No, I was saying the interesting thing too is not only with obviously the logjam of points, but Nashville and St. Louis are tied with 41 wins in regulation or overtime. So that's the first tiebreaker. The second one is the head-to-head series, which St. Louis won against Nashville. So, like I said, so even while we're looking at this right now, that 3-2, that's gonna flip-flop probably a couple more times before Saturday night's done with. So yeah, it's really interesting. And like I said, how motivated will the teams be playing against Nashville and St. Louis, especially like I said, Hawks traveling down to Nashville for the finale. That might be a tougher game for Nashville than they would like in that spot to try to wrap things up. So it's going to be a lot of fun to watch that for sure. But I probably won't be betting anything involving those three teams the next couple of days, because, like I said, they need points. Nashville and St. Louis need points in regulation now too, like I said, so that regulation play makes sense. But I could see maybe the draw would probably be live for any of those three teams in these next couple of games, because especially we'll talk about the Winnipeg and Colorado game, which is that's later down on the board. But the draw is huge in these spots when these teams just need a point. They're not going to do anything stupid in the third period to possibly risk not having any points at all. They want to get at least one on the board. So we might see a lot of games like we saw last night with St. Louis, Chicago going to OT.
Yeah, and I know we discussed this before we went to air, but the Winnipeg Colorado game, it's like you stated, Colorado essentially 4 points up on that last playoff spot. They need a point. It's all they need to put the Coyotes away for good. They need a point tonight against Winnipeg, and it's when it gets to the third, if it's a close game, a tie game, all they're looking at is get it to overtime. Let's not do anything stupid. Let's pick up our point. We're in the playoffs, and we move on from there. So taking a draw in that game isn't a bad bet at all, because there's a possibility that that could come into play once we hit the third period of that game.
Yeah, and I mean, we can just go on and talk about that game now. We don't have to go, exactly down the order. I mean, it's one of the later starts. Colorado at home, minus 115, minus 120 favorite. Total is at 6, slightly shaded to the under with this one. But yeah, Winnipeg, I mean, they haven't really helped their cause out to try to win the division much. I mean, we've seen them lose 5 of the last 7 games, and like I said, against teams they should be beating, like Minnesota. Dallas gives them a little bit of a tough deal. Islanders and Montreal played them tough as well. So you wonder, like I said, only needing 1 point to wrap things up, and then by Saturday they'll probably just rest everybody. But Colorado needing this game bad, and I think Colorado will want to win this one at home. But like you said, they only need a .2 to wrap things up as well. So I would lean with Colorado because they're just playing the sharper hockey of the moment. But, you wonder if Winnipeg, because this could be a first-round series. That's the thing. We have no idea what these series are going to shape up like either because of how logjam the Central is. And with, the flip-flopping possibly between, if Colorado clinches, will they be able to leapfrog Dallas in the next 2 days to get that first seed, second seed within the wild card? So there's still a lot up for grabs as far as matchups are concerned. So, like I said, the draw is the only thing I would be looking at here. You can get the draw. I'm seeing prices around 290, plus 290, plus 295. So I more than likely will have that on my card. Carmine, are you going to be playing that draw, or are you just going to?
Yeah, no, I like some of the points you made, and it wasn't on my betting card, but every once in a while I do like to add a couple things for small units, and much like I added the wings tonight. For a small unit, I'm gonna add the draw here as a play. It's not part of like my bigger card, but I still like to have action on a game that has a possibility of happening, right? So I'm gonna side with you on a draw here, and let's 1-1 going overtime. How's that?
Yeah, sounds good to me. And that's the thing, I talk about it a lot, especially this time of year, because I started playing this regulation line stuff a lot during the playoffs. It was a couple of seasons ago. We had 16 first-round games going to overtime, and I started playing the draw and cashed about 9 of them. And then with a local that I have here, they cut me off. It wouldn't let me bet them anymore. So they will limit you a little bit. Even the offshore books will limit you with these draws. You can't play them like if you're a big-time bettor, you can't lay a couple of dimes on some of these regulation lines, but they're worth having if you have a side bankroll. Some of the things you want to look at, especially, and I'll talk more about it in the playoffs, but the draw, first period stuff, a lot of player props, players to score. Those are things like I have a separate bankroll just for those during the playoffs. Like I said, and so it's a good thing to have even during the season as well.
It's listen, and this is a hockey show, but I'm going to go into soccer for one quick sec. But it's something that I look at usually within the last month and a half of the season, and all of the big 5 domestic leagues are entering that stretch run. Is the teams that are at the bottom of the standings, the bottom 3 in each league get relegated and go down to obviously a lower league.
Right.
These teams that are 2 or 3 points out of saving themselves, the formations, the teams they put out there, they're not looking to win. They're looking to pick up 1 point. They're looking for a draw, and it's unbelievable like how they will stack literally 9 guys in the box. If you take a team that's favored and you're watching them try and score against a team who has 9 guys in a 15-yard box, and it's just one of the most frustrating things to watch. But it's understanding what is at stake for the teams. So much like when we talk about draws, it's the same thing in soccer. And I take a lot of underdogs in the last month, especially if I'm getting like a half a goal, just because the draw is so big. But anyways, let's get back to hockey. I just got on the whole draw thing in my head.
Right.
Figured to mention it.
I have to ask you too, why is there no overtime in domestic leagues in soccer?
Well, during the regular season, it's just wins, losses, and draws. There's no extra time. They're on the field for 90 plus minutes plus any injury time. So it's just there are hardly any substitutions. It's not like you can run out there for 2-3 minutes, come to the sides, take a breather.
Right.
A lot of these guys cover 7 to 8 miles in a game running around the field, and then you get the guy who falls to the ground. He fakes. He's got cramp. it's to give the rest of the team a breather. It's one of those things. You know, it's if you're a fan of the sport, it's great. If you're not a fan of the sport, it's one of the most frustrating things to watch. It's just how it is.
Yeah, I mean, I casually watch it, but I just wonder, like, I'm like, if the NHL were able to get rid of ties, like, why can't soccer? Like, no game should end in a tie anymore in 2019, in my opinion.
Penalty shootouts for the win. That's it.
Yeah, that's a whole nother. We could probably do a whole thing about soccer because I have a lot of questions about different things. But we'll get back to the hockey for everybody. Like I said, we're toward the end of the board. We kind of flip flopped a little bit because we went with Winnipeg, Colorado. But let's talk about, you mentioned Nashville earlier. They're at home, like I said, in that logjam of the Central, laying minus 240, 250 against Vancouver. And this is Vancouver's first road game in a while. They had a big home stretch, so we are talking about teams coming home from a long road trip. Kind of wonder how is it going to be for a Vancouver team who's been at home, and out of the playoffs, and now all of a sudden having to hop back on the road, going to Music City. Might be kind of the same way to approach it. May not want to look at Vancouver here in this spot.
Yeah, I know they won 3 straight, but it was one of those things again that they wanted to close out. They had a long homestand. But now they're closing it. They're closing out on the road. I think they did what they had to do, but I'm fading them in both games. I'm fading them tonight, and obviously I'm going to fade them on Saturday against the Blues. It's the Preds here. Preds regulation time for me, and Preds in the puck line, and that'll be in the parlay that I mentioned at the end as well too. Too big a game, and as far as I'm concerned, I don't think there's anything left in this Canucks team. I think they go on the road. They close out their last 2 games. They're just going to go through the motions, I think, and I think it's a big win for the Preds tonight, and I think it's a big win for the Blues on Saturday.
Yeah, I like Nashville that over 3.5 the team total. You can get that at even money. That's something I'm leaning toward putting on my card. Next game we got the San Jose Sharks. I mentioned teams falling on the ground and rolling into the playoffs, and I was talking about San Jose. They are on the road against Edmonton. They are a minus 140, 145 favorite. I'm not betting on the Sharks until the game starts to mean something for them, but I'm definitely not going to be looking to take Edmonton the way that they have been playing as of late. We've seen them just kind of lay a few eggs here and there, and this is not a team that I want to back, even at a plus price, even at home. You think they would want to try to wrap the season up on a good note against the division rival, but they've lost 4 in a row. San Jose has lost 9 of the last 10. This is a complete pass for me.
Yeah, it honestly, the game's a pass. I've got a small play on the total here. I'm taking the over. 6.5s aren't always my favorite to take, but it's just one of those ones. They're limping into the playoffs as well too. Pavelski's back, kind of helps them. Yeah, he had like lower body injuries, missed a few games, but they've got to find something the next couple of games just to get into the playoffs on a positive note. The Oilers, again, we talked about it in the last show. It's tough to believe a team with 2 scorers with 100-plus points aren't in the playoffs. But again, it goes to show you, and much like I mentioned last time, is that one line can't do everything for you. Colorado, it's sort of the same thing, but they're in the playoffs. They've got that top line is fantastic, but they are getting some scoring from that second line as well. Something's going to be needed in Edmonton. There's no way that they could have had so many draft picks and so much talent on that team that they're finishing with 77 points in the standings and only eight points above that final spot that the Kings have as the worst team in the West. You can't take either line. You can't take the Oilers. There's no way you can make a case for them. There's no way you can make a case for the Sharks tonight. I'm just going to look at one of those games where they go up and down the ice. It's almost like an all-star game in the sense of it's not a tight checking game and we get some goals in there. I'm going to take 6.5 here and go over.
Yeah, and San Jose 10-3-1 in the over on the road against division opponents this year, and you got Anthony Stolarz in net for Edmonton, who hasn't played since March 9th. Who made an emergency start there, and they lost against Toronto. So, yeah.
So he's rested.
He's definitely rested, to say the least, for sure. Yeah. The final game on the card here, you got the Arizona Coyotes, who we talked about it off air that they might be out of the playoffs. by the time their game gets rolling to the last game of the night. If Colorado hops out to an early lead an hour before, Arizona might look up the scoreboard and they might say, hey, you know what, we gave it all we could. We're done. Now we're here playing Vegas. Vegas, a minus 200 favorite. Got a total of 5.5 at even money. And it seems like it will be possibly Marc-Andre Fleury returning, which would be huge. You know, you want to give him some work before the playoffs start. This might be a good game to do it. Won't be touching this one. You know, we've seen, like I said, we've seen Vegas drop some games as a big favorite at home. We saw them do that. You mentioned against Minnesota. You mentioned it against Detroit. So, you know, they already had their playoff spot kind of clinched up. So maybe Arizona plays a little hard early. Maybe look at the Coyotes' first period. You know, they give an effort early, and then they look up and see, oh, you know, we're done. Then they fall apart. Who knows? But I'm not going to touch this one. There's other better spots on this card tonight.
Yeah, no, I agree. I've completely passed on this side and total. I thought the line on Vegas might be a little too high at like minus 200, just because, you know, it's they're set to start in San Jose, first round of the playoffs. So, you know, and the game has some meaning to the Coyotes, but games have had some meaning to the Coyotes for the last 2 weeks, and they've dropped games. It's just a game to pass. I don't want to lay that big a number, and the number on the Coyotes isn't big enough to entice me to take them either. It's just a complete pass. And if you held a gun to my head and told me to watch this game and pick a side, I'd just say shoot, man, because I'm not going to pick a side. So I'm going to just pass it now completely.
Fair enough. All right, Carb. You said you got a parlay for the people. The people have been clamoring for parlays all week. What's this parlay?
Yeah, man. Okay, so I took this one this morning. I'll read the lines that I got it at. The juice part of it. They're all puck lines. So you're laying 1.5 with these three teams.
Right.
St. Louis minus 1.5 plus 130. Nashville 1.5 plus 105, and the Islanders to go into Florida and win that game. I figure if they're going to win, I'm going to take the puck line there as well too. Minus 1.5 plus 215. So you're getting a big one there. $100 pays you $1,485. So
nice.
$1,500. It's enough to if you're out there and you're playing this parlay and it wins, I expect to see your names on both Alex and I's purchase list.
Yes, definitely.
And Wagertalk, you know, all kidding
Absolutely.
aside, if you win, all the better. You got some money to play some playoff hockey, guys.
Yeah, definitely. I'll probably be taking a stab at it. I'll throw a little something on there. And even with the Islanders now, that puck line's at plus 220, 225. So you know, shop around, you know, with those puck lines, because puck line is actually something you really need to shop around with from book to book, because I've seen some really wide variance in prices, like 20, 25 cent differences with some shops with puck line. So if you are playing those, look around, you know.
And that's the thing. And when I was out and I was looking through Twitter, I had noticed, and this was before I had put the wager in, you had posted there about Luongo is not playing tonight, but he'll be playing on Saturday. And that's what sort of swayed me, because I just thought, you know, there's a certain emotional level within these games. And I think if he was in net tonight, I would never have the Islanders puck line on the ticket. I think the fact that he's not there makes it a little easier for me in that sense, because I like the Islanders regardless, but I think it's a bigger difference in the grand scheme of things, you know, emotion-wise. You kind of just see it when a guy's playing like their final game. I see it sometimes when a rookie is in net for the first time. It just seems to happen. So.
Yeah, those situational spots, like last year with Vancouver when the Sedins were retiring. I mean, I think they ended up winning the last 3 games at home because the crowd was so into it, and then obviously that final game they ended up winning in overtime. That was I still remember that from last year. It was a great moment to see, and having the brothers skate around at the end and stuff. So those things really do matter. You have to take those into handicap in the final week of the regular season where we're at right now. So yeah, that's it for PuckTime. He's Carmine Bianco. Get his 5-star play tonight over at Wagertalk.com. Get all of his packages over there. I got a 3-unit play over at SportsMemo.com. You know, definitely check out our packages. Check out Wagertalk TV. More shows coming up tomorrow. I was able to wrangle Don Buster from south of the border. He's going to be on for the first time on PuckTime. He's been killing it in hockey all year. So we're finally going to get him on the show to wrap up what will be the last regular season episode of PuckTime. And then Prez will be back Monday or Tuesday, and we'll have the playoff previews. We'll have all the schedules sorted out. So definitely stay tuned to Wagertalk TV for all of that. So for Carmine, I'm Alex. Catch you guys tomorrow. Have a great night tonight.